Hello everyone, so this is the first series of videos I'm going to be doing on the Windows operating system, including home editions and server edition. So in this video I'm basically going to be covering how to bypass the Windows lock screen and get into a PC that you own and you've forgotten the password at all of the user accounts and don't want to reinstall Windows and lose all of your data. This computer I'm actually using here is a virtual machine running in VMware, but the procedure is the same even if it's a physical machine. It also happens to be joined to an Active Directory domain, but the process is the same whether it's domain joined or not. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to mention is please only use this method on your own machine, on machines you're authorized to use it on. Please do not use it to gain unauthorized access to someone else's machine. I will not be responsible for any unethical actions you take using this method. So basically the scenario is you don't know the password to any user accounts and you want to get into the PC. So the procedure we're going to be using is activating the local administrator account, and this account is usually disabled by default. So even if you boot into the Windows recovery menu and access a command prompt or boot into safe mode with command prompt, the problem you're going to run into is that you need the password of a user account, specifically an administrator user account, to enable the default administrator account. So if you don't have this password to any user account on the PC, you're going to run into a bit of a problem because the Windows recovery menu option is not going to work. So for this method we're going to be using a Windows bootable media USB flash drive. As I mentioned earlier, this is a VM running in VMware. So if it were a physical computer, the first step would be to plug the bootable flash drive in. Since this is not a physical computer, it's a virtual machine running on Windows Server, what I'm going to do is plug the flash drive into the physical server, and then I'm going to connect the flash drive to the host, not the virtual machine. And then what I'm going to do is add the ISO. I'm going to add the ISO file to this virtual machine. So I'm going to add a CD DVD drive, and I'm going to use the ISO image file on this flash drive. So basically it doesn't matter what edition, Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server, it doesn't matter. For this purpose I'm going to be using Windows 10 ISO. And now that the ISO is present, what I'll be doing is rebooting this system as soon as this process finishes. So I'll be restarting, and it should boot to the ISO by default. If not, I will have to change the boot order, but it should boot directly to this Windows setup media. Just waiting for it to restart here. It may take a little bit longer since it is joined to a domain. Has to contact the DC. So it looks like it's starting back up here. and it's apparent that it did not boot to the ISO. So what we're going to have to do is change the boot order. So what I'm going to do is restart the machine again, and then for VMware, the key to access the boot menu is escape. Depending on your motherboard manufacturer, the boot menu key could be escape, it could be delete, F12, F9, F10. It really just depends based on your motherboard manufacturer. So I'm going to be repeatedly pressing the escape key to access the boot menu so that I can change the boot order to boot from this ISO file that is the Windows install media instead of booting directly into the operating system. So I'm just waiting for the system to restart here. Again, it might take a bit longer since it's joined to a domain, but it's just restarting normally here. Again, chances are your home computer would restart a lot quicker. This system has a lot of processes and services on it. It's joined to my Active Directory domain. It is normal that it would take longer for it to restart than your computer at home will. Chances are your computer at home would restart much quicker. Another thing I would like to note about this procedure I'm using is that it is completely ineffective if the system uses BitLocker. So one thing I would like to note is that if you'd like to protect yourself from any of these attacks, I highly recommend using BitLocker to utilize full disk encryption on your system. So as you can tell, I'm here on the boot menu. So I believe the device I want is the CD drive. Okay, so now I'm booting from that Windows install media instead of booting to the operating system. So this screen is probably familiar to most of you. It's the screen when you install Windows. You want to be very careful to not actually install Windows and overwrite your entire operating system, as that would defeat the point. So we're not even going to press next here. It's not even necessary. What I'm going to do is on my keyboard, I'm going to press Shift F10. I repeat, that's Shift F10 to open up a command prompt window. So as you can see, the default location command prompt opens to in this mode, you could call it, is x:\sources. So any operation we perform is on this bootable medium. We don't want that. We want to be working on the operating system disk. So what we're going to do is enter disk part. Disk part. And now what we're going to do is, as disk part loads, is enter the command list disk. And as you can see, there is only the one disk on this system. It doesn't count the flash drive. However, on your system you might have multiple disks. I personally have multiple disks on this physical computer, but since this is a VM, there's only the one disk. So now I'm going to select disk 0, select disk 0, and now I'm going to enter list volumes. No S, list volume. And the volume I want to be working with is volume number 2, as that's the main partition that Windows is installed on. As you can see, it's formatted with NTFS. It's also the biggest. And the drive letter for that volume is C. Don't be fooled. Just because C is your operating system disk when Windows is running, that doesn't mean that in this context C will always be the disk. So you need to check first. So what I'm going to do now is exit disk part. I'm going to change my directory to C:\Windows\system32. Oh, what I have to do first is just enter C:. Okay. So now, as you can tell, the current working directory is C:\Windows\system32. So what I'm going to do now is type edit, and do note we're now working with the operating system disk. We're no longer working with the bootable media. So as you can tell, the registry header has now been opened. So what I'm going to do is navigate to local machine, press File, Load Hive, and go into Config and SAM. Open. We can name this anything. For the sake of this video, I'm going to name it Temp SAM, but it doesn't really matter what you name it. So now I'm going to open local machine, Temp SAM, SAM, domains, account, users, and then this first account listed, 501F4, that's going to be for the local administrator account. So what I'm going to do is change this key for F and I'm going to change this binary to 10. So I'm going to be changing this binary beside number 38. I'm going to be changing it from 11 to 10. So what I'm going to do is backspace that. That actually didn't work, so. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to replace it with 10. There we go. Had to have the number lock key on, that's why it wasn't cooperating. But what I've done is I've changed the binary next to these 5 zeros and the 38 number from 11 to 10. Right here. This binary gets changed from 11 to 10. Keep in mind, modifying the registry on your system like that is highly risky. You could easily damage your entire operating system, and I do not recommend this procedure unless you're absolutely confident you know what you're doing and you can follow this video exactly. So now that this has been changed from 11 to 10 next to the 38, I'm going to press OK. I'm going to go back to the local machine key, File, one moment. I'm going to go to the temp sam key that we named earlier. Go to File, temp sam, File, Unload Hive. So now the temp sam hive has been unloaded. What I'm going to do next is exit this setup window. Yes. And now the computer is going to boot normally into the operating system instead of booting to the media device. So now we're back at the Windows lock screen, and voila, we now will have a local administrator account. On a home PC it would show up right here, but since this device is joined to a domain, the procedure will be a little different. We'll type the username of the PC, /administrator. There is no password by default, and now press enter. Please note that on a home computer not joined to a domain, all you will have to do is press administrator, as it will show up by default for you. In this case, the account was disabled, had never been logged into, and that's why it has to create the user profile here. We can just accept, and voila, we are now at a Windows desktop. On a computer we did not know the password for any user accounts on. As you can see, this is the administrator account, and if you go to accounts and other users, that's actually a local account I have, but no other accounts show up because they are all Active Directory domain accounts. However, I could add someone else to this PC. I could use the local users and groups manager. I could go to control panel. I could change the account type of this computer. Whatever I want. I could open local users and groups that we were just in. I could change the password of another account. So if I'd forgot the password of my personal account, I could reset the password. As you can see, my personal account does not show up because this is Active Directory, so my personal account is a domain account. But I now have full administrator control and can get back into my own account. And that was all without knowing the password to the Windows lock screen for any account. All that I needed to do was have a flash drive with the Windows bootable media USB, which anyone can create with ease. So that pretty much wraps up this video. Again, once you've gotten back into your personal account, which I will go ahead and demonstrate here, I'll sign out of the administrator account. I'll sign back into my personal account. Again, if you're doing this because you have forgot your password, once you get back into your personal account, I highly recommend redisabling the administrator account. I highly recommend that for security reasons. It is not at all advised to leave the administrator account enabled on any Windows PC, whether it be a home version or a server edition. So as you can see, it's just going to take a few moments for me to be logged back in, as this is an Active Directory join machine. It has to load group policy and settings for my account, and I'm also using roaming profiles, so it has to load my roaming profile. But once this operation is complete, I will show you the procedure for disabling the administrator account so that there will not be any unauthorized sign-ins to your PC. Again, just waiting for this sign-in to complete. In my videos, I do not like to fast forward past loading screens or sign-in screens. If you guys want to skip past them, that's fine. But I feel like skipping past loading screens or sign-in screens, that just it makes the video seem more fake. And one thing about my videos, I know this is the first, but none of them are staged. They're all performed on my own Windows machine. If something goes wrong in the middle of the video, I do not stop it and re-record. I keep going because I feel that adds to the authenticity of the video. So again, lusrmgr.msc, local users and groups. lusrmgr.msc. And then that's just loading here for a moment. And I'm going to go to users, right click, go to properties for administrator, and check account is disabled. That is the original state of the administrator account. So if I relock this PC, I believe my profile is still loading here a bit. I'm just going to close that start menu and try again. Probably still loading some of the, there we go. Just running a little slow here. I believe it's still loading some of the profile off the server. But now, if I go here and again type the name of the PC, which you have to do on Active Directory join computers to sign into a local account, otherwise it defaults to the domain. Type that /administrator, no password. It says your account has been disabled. Please see your system administrator. And that is what it originally said. Because it was disabled, this account is always disabled by default. We could go through the process again, modify that one registry value from 11 to 10, and it would be enabled again. So that's the end of the video. I wanted y'all to thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, or suggestions, you can put them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them in the order they were received. Thank you.